go live here. Okay. All right. Yeah. There he is. Jeff Jarvis, welcome back. So happy to see you.
I'm on the couch. I always consider these my therapy sessions.
Well, good. We love to hear what you have to say about your relationship with your father.
May he rest in peace.
My dad was asked in a family therapy session. I've only hesitated because I was like, should I share this? But it's deep, but whatever.
That's what you do.
It's very common. I give him permission for it. The therapist asked my dad and our family, all of us were there, tell us about your relationship with your dad. My dad just goes, I don't know how that's relevant. That doesn't matter. And then we just moved on because she got the message. I have a lot to talk with you about, and I'm very happy to see you for all the reasons that we're all always happy when you join us. First of all, I wanted to get your reaction to a media story, all the media stories, of course. But the big story yesterday was that CBS, the new ownership, Larry Ellison's son, a Nepo baby, billionaire, has...
I like to call the Ellisons now the mini Murdochs.
Okay, I want to know why. But so he runs CBS now. Paramount bought CBS. Am I doing good?
Yep.
And so he's like, I'm going to put this woman, Barry Weiss, in charge of CBS. He bought the Free Press for $115 million, although it only makes about $15 million. So that doesn't make sense. But
by that reckoning, you're worth about $45-50 million, I think, something like that.
$97 if you buy me now. I mean, now for 97. And so that doesn't, the financials don't really make sense. So it seems it would be an ideological. What we have is billionaires putting people in charge who share a certain ideology, as opposed to objective journalists or those that would purport to be. Your reactions to the Ellisons, Barry Weiss, and anything around this first?
It's a frightening consolidation of media. And I never was one of those to worry about consolidation of media, because I always thought that it was the dinosaurs huddling together against the cold wind of the future. And they were dying anyway, so I didn't much care. But I was wrong in the current context, because what's happening is that it's the Trump, it's like Hungary and Turkey and Russia. Trumpist moguls are taking over what's left of mass media. And so the Ellisons, like the Murdochs, are father and son, père et fille, and they bought... they have Paramount, and as you say, they bought Viacom with CBS. Reports have it that they're going to buy Warner Discovery and thus CNN. They're a controlling acquirer of TikTok, which was our alternative to mass media. So it's a frightening consolidation. And it's not just that it's owned by the same people. That's one matter. But it's who's owning them, what they're doing. So as soon as the Ellisons have taken over, they've taken the Tiffany network, transformed it into the Kmart flashing blue light special network, thrown in Barry Weiss, who fancies herself a heterodox thinker. She left the New York Times in a huff and now created her Substack empire to be bought. And she's now in charge of CBS News, which is appalling. She's not a journalist. She's not a reporter. She doesn't have experience at this. And Pete, the interesting thing to me is going to be, it's one matter for me to stand up on a high horse and say that some lowly producer at CBS faces a crisis of conscience working for her. Right. But it's another matter to look at the big money people at 60 Minutes. And what happens when she comes in and she Bigfoots in 60 Minutes? And I think they're going to be duty bound to protest publicly, to quit, or else they're not standing up for what remains of journalism.
Also, there can be subtle things done editorially that will have huge impact on a network or a journalist's coverage that aren't so overt and don't make for a great conversation, but they can simply be directing resources to this subject or that subject, as much as just light editing of your piece, guest selection, all kinds of things that it's hard to even have a data analysis for a critic like yourself or a lesser known like myself. And these things are bound to happen. You called the Ellisons the mini Murdochs. I mean, they've been doing these kinds of microaggressions or micro changes in journalism and outlets for for years.
You're right, and what we can never know is the self-censorship that goes on.
Right. How do you measure? Yeah.
You just simply can't. What story does somebody not bother pitching because they knew what was going to happen, or how did they write the story because they wanted to get the story in and they did this? That's the insidious part of this, is the lack of independence. And in the good old days, since I'm an old guy, I can say that, of newsrooms, we prided ourselves as journalists on abusing all authority, including our own bosses. I remember back in the
so well said that the way that I think I conducted myself at SiriusXM, I never really thought of it as that put that way, or that it was appropriate necessarily, but I felt like it was for me and a couple of others. So I feel a little bit seen right there. Sorry to virtue signal.
No, you're absolutely right. I remember way back when I was a young columnist on the San Francisco Examiner. We had this front page feature. It was like the Wall Street Journal front page feature. And somebody did a feature about how not to get ripped off by used car dealers. Well, the publisher had a fit because who was a big advertiser in newspapers? Used car dealers.
Right.
But this was exactly the kind of thing. The reporter knew what they were doing. The editors knew what they were doing. They were thumbing their nose at the bosses and declaring their journalistic independence.
Yeah.
That shit's over.
And so is local journalism to a certain extent that would report on a water main leak that's been going on for a long time in this neighborhood. So it's not getting as much attention, or any number of other issues happening in the schools, in the local environment, and so on. So speaking of which, another media story, which I should have asked you if you saw, this didn't get that much coverage. I think it just broke yesterday, but these 3 Alaskan newspaper journalists, did you hear about this story?
Right.
So these 3 young looking, seemingly young in their early 20s at the beginning of their career, Alaskan journalists write a story about Charlie Kirk, an accurate story depicting his reputation, his behavior, his history, and the corporate ownership of these newspapers apparently edit it, first take it down without telling anybody, then they edit it and replace it. And these 3 journalists all just resigned, and their, I think, resignation was made public, their letters. But that's brave. That's encourage. That's courage. And one person said that kind of integrity is today's heroism.
So I don't want to bang my own drum here, but I
bang it. You're here. You're here to bang your own.
Podcasts are for. So early in my blathering career, I became the TV critic at People magazine. There, I admitted it. I was not exactly, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. I was just TV critic. And I reviewed a PBS series about Whittaker Chambers and suddenly forgetting his name, who was the American who was accused of being a spy, who was later found out to actually be a spy. It'll come to me in a second.
I'll get it.
Alger Hiss.
Who?
Alger Hiss.
Alger Hiss. Yes, go ahead.
Right. So it was sympathetic to Hiss. Now, since then, there's been stuff coming out that said that Hiss was more of a spy than we knew. Whatever. At the time, it was critical of Whittaker Chambers. Well, Whittaker Chambers, it turned out, was at Time Inc. back in the day, at Time magazine, and he was the mentor of Henry Grunwald, who was then the editor-in-chief of Time Inc. And my review went up to the 34th floor where controversial things went, and they butchered the hell out of it and changed what I was saying 180 degrees, completely said the opposite of what I was saying. And I said, this can't go out under my name. No. And Pat Ryan, may she rest in peace, was the editor at the time, and God bless her, she stood firm by me. And at one point she's looking and she's saying, well, either I'm going to lose my magazine or I'm going to lose my critic. I'm not sure which here. And they backed down.
Wow.
And I had to make a few changes, but they were minor. And the essence of what I wanted to say was still there. And it can happen. You've got to stand up. And it's easy for me to say. I'm a white man. I was a younger white man. I was paid less then, but I was privileged. But at some point, if we're not defending the journalism and our independence, then what the hell are we doing?
Very well said. Let's talk about another media story, which is MSNBC yesterday you posted on Blue Sky where you're you're very popular, very influential. You're one of the biggest accounts in all of Blue Skies,
No, I'm
according
not.
to me.
No, I'm not.
In your lane, you are.
Well,
That's all.
among
I mean, I didn't think you're Taylor Swift. You know what I mean?
no.
You are. So first, just real quick about Blue Sky before we get to
Mhm.
your thoughts on MSNBC being the last great hope. I may have phrased that wrong. You like the Blue Sky?
I do like the Blue Sky. I wish they would go full board on being open source and federated, and they're getting there. But yes, it's a great alternative to Twitter. I still post on Twitter because there's people there I care about, but nothing happens there. It's a dead zone. Blue Sky, I have great conversations. I have good people. I still block some people now and again, but I don't find that I'm harassed by jerks. I like Blue Sky.
Well, I do want to say to the 108 now, 9 and counting viewers of yours as a result of you being here on Twitter. You just called them what did you, empty souls? You said they were
No, I
downtrodden. There's now 111 Twitter people who you just said were zeros.
And I feel for all of us who were there, but I'm still there with you. I still
Apologize.
care. You
Roll a
still
podium.
matter. Don't listen to Pete. He's lying again. You know, podcasters, comedians. That's the way they
Yeah, we tend to really be liars as opposed to those who post completely fake AI videos on their accounts and they're leaders in government, which we'll get to. MSNBC is what is your take here? And
So I didn't realize it. I read a piece that said that yesterday was the day that they began the official separation from NBC. So as of yesterday, you would no longer see NBC News people on the air. This morning, the report from Tel Aviv had a British accent because Sky News, which is also owned by Comcast, by the way, is going to produce international reporting for MSNBC. By the way, some people get confused. Sky News was controlled by the Murdochs in time, as they controlled all things. They no longer control the European UK Sky News. It is controlled by Comcast. They do, however, still control Sky News Australia, which is worse than Fox News, in parentheses. So I read yesterday that MSNBC is now starting this process of independence. And bit by bit over the next few weeks, we'll see less and less and less of NBC there until they become MS Now. And so I thought it was worth saying that to me, and not everybody's going to agree with this, MSNBC is the last vestige, the last best hope of liberal mass media. There's liberal stuff elsewhere. And Joe Scarborough drives me ducking futs in the morning, and he's not liberal.
Yeah.
And the afternoon, you know, the midday of MSNBC, but from 4 o'clock and Nicole Wallace on, to me, it is the best hope we have in media. The New York Times are failing us. The Washington Post is completely broken. CNN is scared to death of its own shadow and that of the Ellisons. NPR is scared of its shadow. PBS has no money in news. So MSNBC's it. And I think we have to support it and hope for the best for what it does. I'm curious what you think of it these days.
Well, I'm very interested in if there's been a piece or many written, maybe by you, forgive me, about what these changes at MSNBC, NBC, and now MS Now mean. You mentioned a couple of them. I find that really interesting, and I'm wondering more about that. Also, I just wonder, you know, you said it's the last liberal network. A lot of people who describe themselves as leftists and a lot of kind of left-wing leftist media, from, you know, the Majority Report, Sam Senior and Emma Vigeland, to all these other YouTubers that are really popular and influential, and I would argue extremely intelligent and thoughtful about politics. They're leftists. They would criticize MSNBC,
Yes,
and they do all day. Yet, I would argue I'd put Chris Hayes up against almost any leftist. He's certainly good friends and has the respect of a guy like Sam Seder, I think. But that's a little bit of nuance on MSNBC. I don't know. I only also just want to say I watched an hour of CNN yesterday, like 2 o'clock, monitoring their coverage in terms of their story selection and so on. And it was the hour that Boris Sanchez interviewed Stephen Miller. I thought he did a pretty good job at letting Stephen Miller hang himself. One might argue that he shouldn't have him on, but I don't, that they shouldn't have him on, but I'm not one to argue that. But I think they did a pretty good hour of story selection at CNN. So I wouldn't completely dump.
No, I don't either. I think CNN, they've had me on their Shout show with Abby Phillip, and God bless her. She tolerates a lot.
Unbelievable.
I wish they'd book me on something where I don't have to shout, because we have to shout there to get going. But anyway, no, there's good people at CNN. I say what I say with empathy toward them, because they could be in the same boat as CBS News if Barry Weiss is suddenly their boss, and they've had tough times. So I think that they're going to be scared. Now, let's be clear. We talked about this last time I was on. I appeared on CNN to say what the employees there could not say.
Yes.
About that, and they knew what I was going to do, and they had me on, and God bless them. They opened that door so it could happen. But I worry for CNN. And CNN was never portraying itself as a liberal network, by the way. So
I'll let people decide what anchor they think I'm talking about. But I was recently on CNN, and I've been on with a bunch of different people, so you can't guess. But the anchor basically texted me back, implied that I thank you for saying what we can't.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting admission to a certain extent. And also want to mention and give a shout out to Ali Velshi, who my friend Tina mentions in the chat, because what he does on Saturdays and Sunday morning for 2 hours a piece, it's a longer form. He has the best experts. 3 hours?
3 hours now? He goes to 1 o'clock, doesn't he?
Does he?
Hold on. Ali Velshi.
Is the work that he and his team at Velshi are doing on the weekends is the most important, I think, coverage, journalism, whatever you want to say, on all of cable television. Again, we're talking about TV with all the caveats of the profits they need to make and the platforms they have and the time that they're given in an hour and so on. But Velshi's the best.
Yeah. I long called him the hardest working man on TV, because he was out there. He's doing less of that now, where he was appearing everywhere. He was subbing for everyone.
I'm glad.
Going to every story.
And he shouldn't be. I would always, he's a good friend, and I would reach out to him like, stop it. Get out of the fucking street. Get out of the hurricane.
Yeah.
Get back in the studio and interview anti-fascist historians.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's 3 hours.
He's doing great. He's doing great. Yeah, he does. He has such great guests. And very relevant, important analysis. So 3 hours. I apologize, Ali Velshi. We'll send this.
All the more important now. Reset your VCR.
All right. So that's the MSNBC.
Still has a flashing 12, I'll bet.
Those. I can't imagine. Remember how much time we spent with our digital alarm clocks just trying to get all the way back 12 hours. You just fast forwarding. You're so tired. You're just trying to set the alarm. You go past it. You got to start over. And now you're all worked up before you go to bed. Now I just tell my AI robot that sleeps with me and holds me. I say to her, I call her by her name, Alexa, and I tell her what I need, and she delivers.
She does. Yeah. And she loves you.
Let's talk about how German journalists are and she loves you. German journalists are doing a better job covering America's fall than American journalists. You specifically sent me, and you shared this link at your Blue Sky account, to a Der Spiegel article, and it's about Christian nationalists. Christian nationalists are gaining a solid foothold in Washington. This is the most important story, I think, in America right now, overwhelmingly, for lots of reasons. Why are the Germans, why are the Europeans doing it better than the mainstream media in American corporate media?
American media. And it's Der Spiegel, it's the Süddeutsche Zeitung, it's Die Zeit. So I took German in high school and college, and everybody, even Germans, say, "Why did you do that?" And I explain it's because nobody liked the French teacher. And I didn't pay attention. Mein Deutsch is sehr schlecht. But with considerable help from Google, I try to see what they say over there. And so I every day I go to those three publications to see what they have to say. And I consistently see better coverage of the fall of U.S. into fascism than here. Why, you ask? Well, one potential reason is their history. They've been there. They're more attuned to it. Another is simply distance. I think they can judge America from afar better than we can. But I think the journalism is just simply better. And I'm going to speak at Medientage München at the end of the month, Media Days in Munich. And I'm going to beg them. I begged a friend of mine who's the editor of Die Zeit to do what Der Spiegel did and translate more of these articles and make them open and available for American journalists to read. So Jörg Schindler did this piece on.
I mean, I love it every time you do it, and I would wish you would do more. Just throwing in German words in our conversation and doing the German accent on them. Please give it all to me, please.
Fingerspitzengefühl. It's a favorite of mine. And if we're going to talk about policy, we can always talk about the Leistungsschutzrecht. We'll leave that for another day, Pete.
Well played.
There's a line that supposedly Mark Twain said, and I did a lot of research on Mark Twain for my new book about the linotype, Hot Type, coming out next year from Bloomsbury Academic, and always be selling. And I can't find, I think it's apocryphal, but supposedly Twain said, "I'll supply the vowels, you supply the umlauts." Mm. So anyway, Jörg Schindler, J-O umlaut R-G, did wonderful work. And when he wrote this piece in German, I emailed him and I said, really great work, and please get this translated. And they did.
Great.
And then he had another piece today about Trump's thought police. Der Spiegel also a few weeks ago looked at the stances of Charlie Kirk and said that he would be classed as a right-wing extremist in Germany. The Süddeutsche had a column about just simply how stupid Trump is, which also, by the way, The Guardian recently had a piece on too. So it's the Europeans who win the day. And I just, it's as you know, and I usually yell about this on this show, how depressed I am, how angry I am at the quality of American journalism at this momentous time. So it's good to see at least some journalism elsewhere that's good, but it doesn't do us much good here.
Can I try to diagnose the reason why American corporate mainstream media does not cover the Christian nationalist movement the way that they should, using the terms that they should, and so on, which I think is just simply that they don't want to fall victim to the victim narrative, that Christians are the most discriminated religion or group of Americans in the country. This firmly held belief that a lot of American right-wingers, MAGA, and certainly evangelicals think that they are the most victimized group and need protection. And so for that reason, there's a lot of Christians in power in editorial rooms and newsrooms, and even those who aren't.
And the Supreme Court and Congress. I wouldn't say the White House.
Yeah, right. So media, but I'm specifically focusing on these corporate media outlets that might not report. And it's there's a lot of powerful Christian nationalists. Jeff Charlotte's been writing about it forever.
Yes.
And so have lots of others. But I mean, his was one of the main, books in the Netflix series, Jeff Charlotte's, to cover the Christian nationalists in Washington, in government. Why? So that's why they don't, because every day, you just shared this, every day there is a right-wing pastor or a man of the cloth who's been arrested for abusing children. Like almost every day in America, it's almost entirely right-wing conservative Christian leaders. One of Trump's most influential religious influencers, a Texas pastor, just got arrested. I mean, it happens all the time. Why don't they cover it? Why isn't it covered better? Why do we have to go to the fucking Germans? No offense. Sorry.
Hey, they just did good journalism. You called them the fucking Germans? Stop that.
Sorry, Germans. Sorry, Germans.
Yeah, apologize to Germans.
I say a lot.
So two things. One, I'm the brother of a Presbyterian minister.
Oh. Wow.
You said that with deference and respect. She's a good Scotch drinking liberal minister. Yes, she's a she too. Yes. Wow. And fairly early on as an ordained minister, now retired. She was in Philadelphia for a long time. And I used to have discussions when she was in Princeton with my sister and her colleague and say, you've abrogated the pulpit of television and mass media to the whack jobs.
Right.
Because I think that so-called mainline denominations are frightened of mass culture, of kind of degrading the religion in mass media, and I think it was a huge mistake. It enabled that most powerful pulpit to be taken over by the whack jobs and the grifters and the pedophiles and the corruptors, and that's what. And so they've lost their religions have lost control of, to put it crassly, their brand. The other piece, so I'm going to do a little more German thing here because I know you like it. So I was reading a translation of a book that's coming out. I'm doing research on a next book on the death of mass media, and a piece by Gunther Anders. There's an umlaut in there. About the translation is coming this winter called "The Obsolescence of Humanity."
Oh, great!
Yeah, so interesting piece. And
That
so I'm
sounds-
reading. I was reading it, but I really wanted to read it now. So I read a translation of a Spanish translation of the German. So I knew it was not going to be great, but the ideas were there, and I was reading it. I'm sorry for this long preamble, but I'm getting to the point. So the translator, whose name I don't have handy, talked about I don't even know how to pronounce it, banalization, the making something banal, the banalization of politics and of evil. And it obviously comes off of Hannah Arendt and the banality of evil. So I looked up the German version, and the word there was Verbiederung. And it's going way past my 8th grade German. So I went to the socials, and God bless the socials, especially Mastodon is the greatest for this kind of question. And I
Wow,
said,
interesting. You're
German
still
friends,
out
help
it.
me out here. Is this a proper translation? And I got all kinds of great exegeses on it. And the Verbiederung has specific connotations in Germany of making something too comfortable and homey. My point at long last is that I think what American journalism is doing is banalizing evil. They're making it banal. In the case of Arendt and Eichmann, she was saying that the banality of evil was that he was common and anyone could do evil. And that's the danger that we face. But what I think we see media doing is taking something that is apparently and obviously evil and awful and dangerous and terrible, and they're trying to soften it. They're making it banal.
Right.
They're engaging in Verbiederung.
Right.
And I think that's it's part of moving the Overton window. It's part of both sidesing. It's part of normalization. But I really liked this idea that they're trying actively to make bad things banal, and that itself is evil.
Oh, really well said. And you can think of any number of issues and incidents that are occurring across this country, and the way that they are covered and to some extent become normalized. And for example, American military in the streets, how that is covered, where it's covered,
Yes.
how much time it's given, as well as, just snatching people off the streets.
So
which is a
Elizabeth
separate
Spires,
thing that gets
have you
lumped
had
in.
Elizabeth Spires on?
No?
Oh, you should. Oh, you're going to love her. Elizabeth Spires, who was a frequent columnist for the New York Times and was the original writer and editor of Gawker back in the day. She's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And she put up on the socials yesterday this great scene from Portland, from the war zone of Portland, where a guy in a big frog outfit was pushing back the troops.
I shared it.
Just by being a frog, right? And she said, we must remember the power of mockery. And I think that's so important and so right, is that we still have that power, you, comedian, in humor, to mock these jerks.
AOC said the same thing. A lot of people are saying that mockery, ridicule, all of it is extremely necessary during these times. And that's what the historian said was also important and effective as well. And we've seen our modern day authoritarians like Putin come for those who do that. But that, by the way, that video of the frog walks the line back to the ICE facility, and then it's like one of those inflatable frog costumes, and then starts like thrusting its hips like it's fucking the ICE agents protecting the facility. And it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to.
It's brilliant, but let's also be very clear. It's courageous as can be. These are
one
armed
of those people in one of those
Nazis.
silly costumes got sprayed in the air vent. Did you see that video?
No.
An ICE, whatever, Fed agent, secret policeman, he took his spray, whatever that mace shit that they use is, and he put it right in the air vent that inflates those costumes, which I don't know. That should be one of the things they say, yeah, you can't do that, because you could,
Yeah.
I don't know what physically that could do to a person, but that seems like a bad thing to be in an enclosed space with
It's
mace.
bad enough to be in there with your own sweat.
By the way, it's bad enough that you own one of those, but it is courageous, and it does make a mockery of them. And by the way, speaking of journalism, I thought it would be an important and interesting thing to see who is covering these ICE facilities, because if people don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, or anyone, what is happening in Portland, specifically in Chicago and in cities across the country, is there are protesters who have identified the facilities where ICE, usually nondescript, not advertised, but often they are, ICE is bringing the people they are snatching off the street. There are protesters outside of those facilities, and therefore there are a whole bunch of members of different law enforcement agencies protecting those facilities. But I thought it would be important to go to see who's like live streaming all day. What's it like all day, to get the complete context of what it looks like outside that Portland ICE facility. There's a lot of them. I went to a 7-hour live stream from this guy. You know, I vetted it out. He's a legitimate dude. There's a lot of these people. It's a great opportunity for anybody with a camera and a platform. I was thinking about going out there just to interview those who are actually doing it, to find out, get some context about it.
Yes.
But basically,
that's our new media. That's we don't have the reporters to do it. That's how we're going to find out about these things. That's the power we have.
I mean, well, you need the reporters, because the reporters need to have the credibility that what they're doing is honest and transparent. And unfortunately, anybody can go with a camera and a platform. Everybody has equal access.
Are now empowered. Yep.
Except for everybody has equal access, though the bigger your following is, the more access you have. But
yes.
Speaking of which, let's give credit to somebody whose following is growing, former student of yours. Juliet Jeske might have had one of her biggest hits of her career, maybe the biggest since she started her project under your tutelage at the school that you used to work at. And it's called Decoding Fox News. And yesterday she posted, and I bet you almost everybody here has seen it at this point, because it's gone across platforms, this side-by-side of the great American Jesse Waters, who had a guy on with a mask who said he was former Antifa and a former drug cartel member. So she puts them up side by side. It's clearly the same guy. And she's the only journalist that did that. I don't know what it means, but what do you want to say about that video or Juliet's work?
Just Juliet's the greatest. I haven't been on MSNBC in quite some time, and I think it may be because on their air, I begged them to do a segment called "We Watch Fox News So You Don't Have to," and they didn't. And Juliet went and did it. And she's courageous as can be. She takes no shit from any bullies. She did work while she was in J school on frightening extremists. And she's great, and she's making a passable living. You should all give her more money to support this work. But she's at least able to feed on ramen noodles, checking on what Fox News is and is not saying to the world. I think it's so critically important.
By the way, there are some of these, I'll call one out, that I've got at least two sources who have worked with them. New media outlets that are dominating as progressives, Midas Touch is who I'm referring to.
Yes.
That do not have, I'll just say, very good, honest business practices. They're not paying a lot of people on time or what they deserve. They're making, I think, millions of dollars now at Midas. I like a lot of the things that they're doing and the way that they're doing it. I do. But I've heard from a lot of people who are not getting compensated appropriately. I wouldn't say that I've heard that about people working at the Bulwark, which seems a lot more buttoned up.
Right.
And
Or
all I'm
Talking Points
saying
Memo or others.
is that there are a few of us who are still entirely working alone by our lonesome, eating ramen, who would like a little more support. We're not trying to compete with those guys, Midas Touch, Bulwark, or Pod Saves, but people like Juliet, me, and hundreds of others that have good reputations doing good work get cynical and a little bitter that people are sending their money to some of these bigger outfits that don't have the best reputation. So give your money to Juliet at Decoding Fox News.
To the sources, yeah. And Midas Touch, I mean, I too like their attitude, and I like what they're doing in terms of what they say, and they stay on top of things, but what they don't do is credit the people who are doing the work. And
that too, they lift the work of Juliet and others, and they get paid for it in their views. That's where they get paid a lot, and
it doesn't cost them anything to at least cite.
Yep.
And it's better for their credibility.
It's
they
funny
should be doing it.
That's why, by the way, simple reason why it's a good point. Juliet has complained a lot, I think openly, about not getting credit from certain media outlets like them, I think, and others. But yesterday, my favorite independent is Sam Cedar. The Majority Report, Sam Cedar, I think he does great work. He played and talked about this story. He gave lots of credit to Juliet and said, go support her while he plugged it the way that you did. And that's why I believe people should support people like him as well. So.
Right. I agree. There's an ethic to this. And it goes back to the early days of blogging, where if you didn't link to somebody and didn't give them credit for what you were saying, then you'd get shunned, and you should have. And then journalists were terrible at picking up blogger stories and not crediting them. So we had to make sure that we lived at least by our own ethic.
Did you hear about a story in your state of New Jersey, a young man harassing these two young women because one of them was critical of Charlie Kirk? He then basically stalked one of them. He was reported to the police. Apparently they didn't do anything. I'm not sure what they could do, given that he hadn't necessarily couldn't. He drove into them and killed them.
Allegedly.
He's been arrested. Yes. Did you hear about this story?
Yeah, my wife told me. It's appalling. It's absolutely appalling that it happened at all. It's appalling that it happened in a place like New Jersey, where I am. It's appalling that it happened among young people.
Just to be clear, he targeted her because she was complaining about Charlie Kirk is the shortest way of saying it, is my understanding. And he killed two women. They were on their bikes going to get ice cream, teenage girls, and he killed. I don't usually talk about these horrific stories of murders, but when it's representative of a larger trend, and I bring it up because to a lesser consequences, you've got now a Rutgers professor and hundreds of others who have been hounded by Turning Point USA. That's a lot of what Charlie Kirk did while he was alive. Certainly it's happening in his death. And what do you want to say about Mark Bray?
So Mark Bray is a Rutgers professor, and he wrote a book entitled Antifa. He's a history professor. I read much of it yesterday. It's a very good history of anti-fascist movements from before World War II and on. And they decided there's a Talking Point USA chapter on Rutgers campus.
You said Talking Point.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Get it right.
Talking Point memo.
Get it right.
Turning Point USA on Rutgers campus. And they doxed him. His wife is also a professor and teaches there. And it's so bad that there were death threats. They had to leave their home after being doxed. And they're moving to Europe. And this is appalling. This is New Jersey. This is Rutgers. And I looked up, if you go to the Turning Point USA site, you see hundreds and hundreds of these chapters in universities all around. And I started looking up the chapters and looking up the people. And Rutgers is enabling these professors to teach their classes remotely, at least. So they can be safe, but I wonder what Rutgers is doing about these students. The irony is long since dead, murdered, buried, and disintegrated. Yeah. So these people don't understand that they whined about cancel culture, and now they're canceling everybody in the worst possible ways. And they don't understand that when they complain about the awfulness of anti-fascists, they're thus labeling themselves as fascist. And they can't see this. And it's appalling what's happened here. It's appalling what's happening in universities. While we have huge pressure from Trump and these fake deals coming out and all this kind of stuff, and here's two lone professors who are victimized by it, and the story is not getting nearly enough attention. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Also, want to ask you. I got to ask you about this Ta-Nehisi Coates.
I was going to ask you what you think about that.
Well, I did watch it. I watched the whole thing because I've not seen a conversation between two people on the left, liberals, whatever you want to call it, however you want to categorize Coates and Klein, get so much talk and tension. I think a lot of it is people just hate Ezra Klein for several of the articles that he's written. And I dislike him because his demeanor and the way he carries himself has just always rubbed me the wrong way.
I agree.
In my own personal few interactions with him, as well as just the setup that the New York Times does for all their podcasts with the anodyne, the blank gray background and the tense music. Somehow this person's opinion is that much better or more serious or sober than some guy who has a better opinion that you could put fucking clown music on. You're not fooling me, New York Times, with your setups. My pink light softens me and my views. So
did you think that Ta-Nehisi should have done his show with him? And how do you think?
For sure. Okay. Yeah.
That's your attitude, is go ahead and confirm.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah. Are people saying he shouldn't have?
Well, I think it's Ezra Klein is the New York Times. So yes, I think it's a question of sometimes when you appear with somebody, you give them attention, you give them legitimacy. Ezra Klein bears the legitimacy of the New York Times and of that podcast studio and all that. So yes, I think he did the right thing by going there. But so much of the heterodox thinking is an effort to rile up and grab attention that way. And so I'm a little cautious about it. Coates, who I worked with briefly at CUNY and respect greatly, and Klein obviously know each other. They were texting each other. They were talking about this.
Yeah.
Klein, to his credit, had him on too. But yeah, the unctuous, self-important attitude of Klein is just unbearable. And
I just I think that we assign a certain morality and moral clarity to people that we read, watch, and listen to, influential people in media and so on. And when they say something in the way that they happen to say it, it really can have an effect on you. And his Ta-Nehisi Coates' general reaction at a few points in that interview of kind of like, how do you not see this point? How are you missing this, kind of the absurdity of some of what Ezra Klein was saying? To me alone, that reaction spoke volumes as to what is missing in this case, Ezra Klein's view. So I always appreciate that. Although our friend Mara Quint came on yesterday and said, don't have any heroes. And I think that's probably something that we should really talk about in terms of right now, your favorite media person, take them down off their platform.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the most telling part of the exchange to me, and I got to all but the last 5 minutes, so maybe there was something better then, was Ezra Klein basically saying, very typical of journalists, very typical of the New York Times, I don't want to talk about history. And he's saying this to a black man whose lesson to us all is that we've forgotten the history that every black person in this country lives with. And it was just so telling. And Coates was all too polite to him.
Yeah.
But Jesus, can't you listen to yourself? And I want to be careful. I used to be a critic, and critics could be snarky, and I was snarky, and people worked hard on something, and I was nasty, and I think I would have been better off spending most of my time pointing to what was good than what was bad. However, there are moments when I'm delighted to see somebody else take down somebody I don't like.
Yeah.
I want to plug two things, if I may.
Go.
Have you ever listened to the podcast If Books Could Kill?
Yes.
I think it's brilliant. And it's basically aimed at airport books that are.
It's so unbelievably good. I don't know. I gotta look more into who those guys are, but they are so good at what they do. It's very unique. I couldn't recommend it.
It's really, really good, and I recommend. Some of them are behind a paywall, and it's worth subscribing to get to them. But the not the latest episode, but the one before the latest, is a takedown of Thomas Chatterton Williams' a new book. And Williams is known as the author of the Harper's Letter back in the day. He's a leader of the so-called heterodox band of we're put upon because people don't understand us. We're disappointed in liberals, and we're disappointed in everybody, but we're always just going to point out how disappointed we are in liberals. So that's Williams. They slice him like a deli bologna. It's beautiful. And then the other one is Becca Rothfeld, who I think is a brilliant a book reviewer of nonfiction in the Washington Post. There are a few voices there who are still worth paying attention to. She similarly dissected Steven Pinker this week. And I want to be careful again about not just pointing out the things that take people down, but there's a certain class of these heterodoxians: Barry Weiss, Steven Pinker, Ezra Klein, Jordan Peterson, Malcolm Gladwell, Jonathan Haidt, Scott Galloway.
Wow.
I put them all kind of in a Yasha Monk.
Whoa.
Harari. There's this kind of, and I am not a public intellectual. I'm not an intellectual. I'm just a blatherer. But they put themselves up. This is part of what I think you're saying about Ezra Klein's attitude, is that he pumps himself up, puts himself on his own pedestal as a commentator. And here I am commentating with you, and we comment. But it's good to see, I think, challenges to these folks.
I don't think you're necessarily, if you're not necessarily taking someone down, if you're also at the same time spotlighting somebody else's work, in this case Becca Rothfeld and the If the Books Could Kill podcast. I mean, maybe you're doing both things at once, but I think it's I don't know. I like the way that you communicate and talk, and so it's certainly helpful to hear your take on these things. And you cover so much every day. You take in so much, and you're an American treasure. So I always love talking to you and I think you're an intellectual compared to me. You are.
Well, it's because I can pronounce umlauts.
Your German is really something.
Well, you wouldn't know, so that's fine.
I mean, I know that it scares me when you do it, but it also makes me laugh. I know that when I hear the language in general, I don't love the way it feels.
It's a pretty cool language, actually.
French.
But I can't do genders. The genders throw me. Declining, I just can't do it.
What do you mean? Oh, gender,
male, female, neuter.
Yeah.
And the way they mangle it. Oh my God!
I don't want to know about that.
Did you take a language in high school?
I studied Spanish for 6 years, and then I studied Italian for several years.
And how are you with them?
I'm pretty good at understanding them.
That's impressive.
Not a conversation about economics or spirituality, but like, if talk to me like a baby, I can get you a towel if you asked me. Well,
what's towel in Italian?
Asciugamano.
Oh, I like that. That's nice.
Why I chose it, because it's such a great word. It's such a ridiculous word for towel. Asciugamano. Like, calm down. It's a rag.
Stop doing that to yourself.
I mean, like, I think certain things get a little bit too much in some of these languages. Why are you shitting on C-SPAN? And then I'll let you go. How dare you?
The C-SPAN, yeah, it's all idolized, all that. They came up with a new feature called Ceasefire. So their first show in Ceasefire, who are they going to have on to discuss politics and have on a balance and have on, it's the opposite of Crossfire, the old CNN. It's the opposite of what Abby Phillip has to go through every night. It's Ceasefire. So who do they have on? Rahm Emanuel, who liberals can't stand, even though he's supposedly liberal. Sean Spicer, Mike Pence, and then also Faiz Shakir, who I don't really know well, and people say that they like him. Okay, one out of 4. But good Lord, that's not representative of anything except the old failed man club.
Well, the CEO of C-SPAN is a guy named Sam Feist, who I know really well. He used to run CNN's politics forever, and that's all you need to know about why those people are there and why that segment, I guess he's brought in to run C-SPAN and make it more. I don't know.
Like the rest of media.
Good luck with that ceasefire program. That's disappointing, to say the least. Sam Feist. I heckled him in a boardroom.
You did?
When I was hired at CNN in 2010, they had a new show that John King was hosting. That's how I got hired. And they brought me in to do a lighthearted segment at the end. They wanted me to do like a commentary, like a Lewis Black or like an Andy Rooney type commentary. I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm not a great writer. If you write it, I'll perform it. But I instead pitched a man on the street segment, which they liked. And they hired me. And I did it for a year. And it was an awesome, awesome opportunity. I loved it. But I was pitching it in a boardroom in DC, in a conference room, to John King and all the producers and all the staffers, like a whole room. And I'm in the middle of it. And Sam Feist walks in. And he's wearing like a full suit. And I'm doing my bit, which I had a rule for myself. Always carry yourself in the hallways and your interactions with executives and media companies the way I would on the air. Like, be on. I was almost always on. And now I'm in front of an audience and this guy walks in and he's like, don't mind me. And then John King says, oh, that's Sam Feist. He runs the bureau. And I make the choice to take a shot at the king. Take a shot at the king because this is who I am. I'm going to make fun of John. I'm going to make fun of everybody. Yeah. That's what I do. And I said to him, because he was in a suit on a Friday and everybody else was casual, I go, it's casual. It's Friday and you're wearing a suit. What are you wearing on a Thursday? A cummerbund? A tuxedo? And I'm getting huge laughs. He did not like it, but I still got hired. So
I got one more question for you. Louis C.K. on Bill Maher about Riyadh. I know you've talked about this, you've been on CNN about this, but what do you think about is the story getting enough coverage? Is it getting too much coverage? How do you see the follow-on?
I think it's getting probably maybe too much coverage, and I participated in that, given everything else that's happening. But I also think it's important to cover, and I think on the heels of the federal government canceling a comedian's show and him triumphantly returning all because of money, I think that it's important to talk about, because here I am on CNN and everywhere else, international networks, talking about comedians and free speech, and it's the only thing that we're all in solidarity about. And then 2 weeks later, I'm back on those same networks going, oh my God, I can't believe these comedians who only have the moral authority to talk about one issue, free speech, are going to a country where the government is the worst at free speech and doing it just for a press release for that government to normalize that government. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty easy. I started with a lot more nuance. In the end, I think there's no. It's pretty easy to pass judgment on.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And by the way, you're going to lose more money than you're going to make potentially, because maybe not. I mean, a lot of these, Chappelle's not going to lose anything. Chappelle punching down at trans activists arguably got him more fans than he lost, is my guess.
Well, that's our current atmosphere. Yeah. That's the America we're in.
Yeah.
And the Saudi Arabia.
I can't wait till comedians start attacking like Down syndrome people, or, I mean.
Well, Trump did attack a New York Times reporter who had a physical difference back in the day. Remember?
Yeah. That's exactly true. And his behavior every day since has been kind of I'm still shocked by the things he says every day. Yesterday, he said that he's going to take a look at Ghislaine Maxwell's case to see if she deserves a pardon.
And act as if he hadn't heard that name in a while.
What do you think of that? What was that about? Was he just pretending? Because he must live in his head rent free, right?
Get away with it. Yeah.
I mean, I think she's the only person he thinks about. But by the way, evidence that Trump doesn't carry out secret assassinations like Jeffrey Epstein, because if he did, she'd be dead. Like, I don't think the government really does that. The United States government has really done that.
Oh, no,
in a while.
I think that she'll be let out and singing his praises and saying how he didn't do anything.
But he could silence her.
Oh, he could, but he won't need to because she's what she is. I've told you that I met her back in the day,
Yeah, I think you did tell me that. I think you
right?
told me that you
I worked for her
hooked up with
father.
her. I think you told me you had a threesome with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, which was legal and consensual. So let's be clear.
Because I was not too young. Um, uh, uh, she's not exactly a paragon of high ethics.
Oh,
So I think she'll do whatever he wants.
by the way, no, who wouldn't?
Right.
If I was in prison and I could get out by lying, I'd probably lie. If I was gonna be in prison the rest of my life and they're like, your one chance of freedom is to say this happened or that happened. I mean, probably I don't know what I would do. I can't imagine that. But most people, you can't blame someone for being, like, I'll say whatever it takes to get out of this fucking place and live a life, especially someone like her.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, Jeff Jarvis, you're the best as always. I really appreciate
Always a pleasure.
hour of your time.
As I say, this is my therapy.
It's ours too, and we
get
appreciate
to talk
it.
to a nice, sane person.
Thank you to all of the viewers you brought. Over 200 people watching on Twitter for your account, 100 on mine, everybody watching on YouTube and everywhere else. Thank you for watching live and commenting. Support Jarvis, follow him, get all his books. Go read The Buzz Machine. What else are we plugging?
That's it. My next book's out next year, so I'll wait for that.
I can't talk to people as thoughtful and brilliant as Jeff Jarvis if you don't support me. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. I do this every day.
I support him too. You should.
And Jeff himself is a huge supporter, but that's not why he's here.
Because I like you. I really like you.
Love you, bud. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.